It was a cold, moonless night when Alex, a young cab driver, found himself driving down a long, empty stretch of road just outside the city. The digital clock on his dashboard blinked 2:43 a.m. Exhausted from a long day of work, Alex was ready to call it a night. The road was deserted, and the thought of heading home was a comforting one. But just as he was about to turn the car around, the radio crackled to life. A voice from the dispatcher came through, sounding as tired as Alex felt. "Alex, we've got a pickup request. Pretty far out, but it's the last one for the night." Alex sighed. It was late, and he was ready to be done, but the thought of a few extra bucks convinced him otherwise. "All right, send me the details." The location was odd. A pin dropped in the middle of nowhere, far from any houses or businesses. Still, needing the money, Alex decided to take the job. He turned his car around and started driving towards the location. As he drove, the road grew narrower, the surrounding trees thicker. The night seemed to grow colder, and a thick fog began to roll in, making it difficult to see beyond his headlights. An uneasy feeling settled in Alex's stomach, but he pressed on, following the GPS until he finally reached the spot. There, standing by the side of the road, was a woman. She wore an old-fashioned white dress that seemed out of place for the weather, face obscured by long, dark hair. In her hands, she clutched a small, leather-bound book. Alex slowed the car to a stop and rolled down the window. "Are you the one who called for a ride?" he asked. The woman nodded slowly, didn't speak. She opened the back door and slipped into the seat behind him, closing the door with an eerie creak. Alex glanced at her in the rearview mirror. She sat perfectly still, her face hidden by her hair. She whispered an address, a place Alex knew all too well but hadn't visited in years. It was the old cemetery at the edge of town. The pit in Alex's stomach grew as he pulled back onto the road. The drive felt like an eternity. The woman didn't say a word, her presence filling the car with a heavy silence. Alex tried to make small talk, asking her where she was from, if she was visiting family. She remained silent, her eyes never meeting his in the mirror. All he could hear was the faint sound of her breathing and the hum of the engine. His unease grew with each passing minute. As they approached the cemetery, fog thickened, swirling around the car like a ghostly veil. Alex's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. He pulled up to the cemetery gates and stopped the car. The woman opened the door and stepped out without a word, her white dress billowing in the cold wind. She walked towards the gates, and Alex watched her go, his heart pounding in his chest. He was about to drive away when he noticed the book she'd been holding was now lying on the back seat. Curiosity got the better of him. He reached back and picked it up. The leather was worn and cold to the touch. He opened the book and found old, yellowed pages filled with strange symbols and drawings. One page had a photograph, a picture of the woman, smiling, standing next to a grave. Alex's blood ran cold as he read the date on the grave, 1923. Panic set in. He jumped out of the car and ran towards the cemetery, but the woman was gone. There was no sign of her, just rows of silent, weathered gravestones. Heart racing, Alex ran back to the car, jumped in, and sped away, his mind reeling with what he'd just seen. As he drove away, his radio crackled to life again. The dispatcher's voice came through, sounding confused. "Alex, where are you?" "That pickup. It was canceled hours ago. There's no one out there." Alex's hands trembled on the wheel. He looked in the rearview mirror, and for a brief moment, he saw her face again. Pale, hollow eyes staring back at him with a haunting smile. He blinked, and she was gone. They say Alex never drove that route again. Some say he quit his job the very next day. But everyone agrees on one thing: the midnight passenger was real.